Okay, and we are live. You're at the Luke and Brett show, and this is where Luke and I just actually have really great conversations, and we help solve world problems as it relates to real estate, mortgage, digital, and everything. Now, before we started this, the magic happens when Luke and I are really kind of talking off the live camera, and I posed a question to him: "What are we going to talk about today?" And we decided, instead of just kind of maybe formulating it, we're just going to walk you through the process on how we do it, because we're going to talk about something. It's going to be awesome, but we just don't know what that is yet. So Luke, what do you want to talk about today?
Well, I usually where this starts out is like, hey, catch us up. Like, how was your week? What have you been doing? Like, what's new? What's your bottleneck, or what have you been getting into? And I was just about ready to jump into when you pose that, like some of the stuff that I'm working on right now, and that's connecting. So recently, as you know, I've been just going head deep into like AI stuff,
Yeah, you've been a mad
and
scientist when
it's
it comes to that.
and it's really right now it's like what are the missing links between that, and so I mean that's really where I just geeking out, and trying to connect all the dots, bring everything together. We've been just blessed with this like amazing opportunity of like content on demand, right? And now what? So we're just kind of like in this position of, okay, you have this power. Now what are you going to do with it? And so the common theme I see over and over again is that. And so what do we take? And so it's funny that you mentioned like you got your VA that's like sitting there, that's not, you're not leveraging it as good as you can, and that's a huge, what I believe is a huge missing piece of like the puzzle there for a lot of people, is like connecting those dots, having the support, the human support to be able to say, hey, I have all this stuff here. Now what? Because we still need to, I mean, everybody still has their full day, everything that they're doing, right? That they need to get done. So that's what I've been geeking out on. And so
So
that's
I'm
been.
writing down a note, and what I took from that is the aha moment that I just had, because I do have a virtual assistant who's on the other side of the planet, and I've been so busy that I have plenty of things I can get him that I need him to operate on, but
Mhm.
it's just I haven't had the time to actually do it, and I don't want to make I'm not that guy that expects the people I work with to work on my time zone.
Mhm.
Him working at like 3 in the morning or 2 in the morning. Now, if he does that anyways, that's on him.
Right.
But I always want to make sure that people who I work with, that I look as part of my team, that they actually have a quality life. And I find that working with him, it's like, I don't know, what is it, 9 a.m. or something like that, when it's 3 p.m. When it's 3 p.m. my time, it's like 9 a.m. or something like that his time. And what's great is that I can give him tasks that almost could be done as if it's overnight service, because I
Right.
give him the task at 3, it's done by the time I'm up in the morning, which is awesome. So what I've really figured out a way of doing is maximizing the efficiencies of my off time,
Mhm.
scaling that. And I didn't realize that until now. I'm glad that you and I talked about that, because I found that when he was working at the same time I was, it wasn't, now that I'm actually thinking about it, I wasn't really being that much more efficient. Where I think the efficiency comes from this is the hours I'm out of the chair, that he can be working on projects and certain tasks
Right.
on his time. So, okay, ding, I'm going to write that down. But going back to AI, because I need your help on this. I agree with you on the whole AI. I think for a content creation, I don't think most real estate agents or most sales professionals, I don't think they quite know how to utilize it. You and I are still kind of figuring out. You're much further ahead than I am. So that's great for me, because I get to be the bearer of you trudging that path first and foremost. A lot like all the other stuff that we have implemented. You're like, I'm going over here. I'm like, great, you go check it out. Let me know how it
All
works
right.
out.
Go do your diligence and summarize for me. No.
but but it's not just creating the content. See, it's important that they create the content, but they also have to have that plan of what they're going to do and how they're going to deploy it. Because if they create that content and they don't deploy it, well, what's the point in spending the time, effort, resources, whatever, to create content that's just going to sit in a electronic file? So that goes back into what you and I talked about, is having the system in place.
Right.
You know, an email campaign. I mean, there's step one for you, but just something along those lines. But coming back to AI, there's Chat GPT. That's the big one that came out. That was the free version. Now they have a paid version of Chat GPT, which is I think like $20 a month. But you also introduced me to OpenAI's beta, and so now we have Bing that is driven by AI. And wondering if you could just really organize this for me so I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Where do I need to focus on? What do I need to log into? What do I need to focus on?
So for you probably right now, I mean, you could probably just stick with the free version of Chat GPT, right?
Yeah, you can never
The
log on, so I'm fine with paying it.
Yeah,
'Cause if you, I don't do
there's
anything.
the
I don't do any free me
well,
freemium
I
version.
mean, you could pay the pro, um, which is going to be, I mean, essentially at the end of the day, guarantees you access. The free version is
Okay.
just, it's almost the same thing, but you may or may not be able to get on, or
Yeah.
right. So there's that limitation. Now, as far as like the product is concerned, it's still pretty much the same thing as of right now.
Okay.
Um,
They haven't changed since you and I last talked on this, like maybe 3 weeks ago.
yeah, it's nothing. I mean, there may be some slight differences, but a lot of it is like speed and access right now, from my understanding.
Okay.
And then there's the open AI, which is, it's the same thing. It's just the back end of the chat interface,
Okay.
which is a playground. Um, and this is where you'll begin to see more of like the enterprise type access for
Is
companies.
this where you go integration wise? So it's still Chat GPT, but this is how you can connect Zapier and other
Yeah,
programs
so
into it.
OpenAI is like the parent company. Chat GPT is basically just an interface for that. So
Okay.
it's using the OpenAI on the back end. Now the OpenAI Playground, which
That's
you know
what I'm
I,
talking
I
about.
had
Yeah.
I had showed you there. That is that's essentially like, this is where it'll kind of maybe just kind of give you like a use case. This is where companies will, let's say, your company has, your frequently asked questions, how to respond to, how to do everything, like all of your SOPs, all of your company voice, your all of that good stuff. It's where companies, like enterprise companies, will be able to get into, put that information in there and use that stuff internally, externally. So it could be like a database where people could come on, like a new team member could come on to your company and say, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? And it's pulling from that information, that data.
So
So you,
it's pulling. So the enterprise version, you can actually open your your comms channel to Chat GPT through the playground, and it's learning all this stuff about it. So when somebody has a question, they can pose the question, and AI is going to come back and answer it. Is that what I'm understanding? That's
that's
cool.
where that's the, like, the direction that it's going to
Yeah.
be able to go.
Wow, that's cool.
So, I'm sure you're probably familiar with like Bain and Company. Like the consulting firm, like they are starting right now to do implement this with like Coca-Cola, with like all big Fortune 500 companies. Um, so that's the probably like the like next phase, the big direction of where that stuff going. But it's like, so taking that information and being like, how can like an individual start to begin to incorporate that, and obviously we're, that there's a level of like skill and expertise that's, needed there,
Yeah.
um but and here's where like the individual real estate rep, or whatever, the with the power of like AI and the ability to create this content, like you can have somebody that is a $3 an hour VA come up and create the content. They can implement that content. They can send out those emails.
Yeah.
They can use those tools to, with a certain set of like questions, like knowing how, like, hey, what are the questions that I should be asking right now to come up with a content plan? Like just that basic open-ended question, you can have somebody with a, very limited skill set begin to start to create all the content, then develop, disperse that content out. So like you said, it's one thing to, have that information, but if you're not doing anything with it, that's the next big phase for that.
Yeah, and that really comes into the whole technology side of things. Is that you need to have that before you start diving in. No, look, you and I have been in this industry for a long time, and there's a lot of buzz around the whole AI and content creation. I'm seeing a lot of articles come out cautioning people because some of the terms that are actually being created by AI may be like a copyright infringements in the way that they've done it. So there's a lot of people. You always come up with those people that'll tell you 24 ways on why something can't work,
Right.
and there's very few people that will just trudge the path. You being one of them, that will just trudge the path to figure out how to make it work.
Right.
And but I think that this is, even exciting as it is, it's like it's like the it's like something that has to be implemented after you build out your content strategy. You have to have the platform. If you're going to blog or vlog, you need to have your blogging page. You need to have a YouTube account if you're going to do videos. You need to have your podcast account. You need to have a way to download. You need to have all of that structure put in first, and then worry about the content. Because I think what's going to happen, like everything else, people are going to try and start working in reverse, and they're going to get frustrated, and then that's where the naysayers come in and say it doesn't work because they started at the end instead of starting at the beginning.
Right.
Kind of my
So,
thought process on that.
yeah, it's funny. I mean, you're spot on. I'm literally going through right now creating SOPs for a university for virtual assistants to, hey, how to create a YouTube channel, how to make short form videos, how to all that, like A to Z, to be able to have that distribution, and then obviously, systems, high level, all that good stuff to for ongoing distribution. So I think that's a huge missing
It's
link.
really important. It's really exciting. I think people need to do it. I'm still having the conversation with people on just choosing a primary market area and choosing their ideal client. I mean,
Right.
this is something that shouldn't be a challenge. You know what made it a challenge? It wasn't a challenge when I first got into the business. It's a challenge now because technology has enabled people to broaden their service market. Not just in real estate or mortgages, but I mean mortgages were pretty broad typically anyways, because it wasn't a belly to belly in person kind of thing, but real estate, I mean, technology has really expanded it. Now that you're licensed, you can, I'm licensed in California. I could technically do business any place in California, but now you become a generalist, and I do have friends and colleagues where I try to get them to focus on things that are happening in their immediate market. They don't need to. I'm in Orange County. They don't need to go to San Diego. They don't need to go to Riverside. They don't need to go to LA to get that one deal. In fact, it cheapens them. So the hardest part, I mean, AI is great, technology is great, but if we reverse engineer to kind of step one, let's find out your target market area, become the expert in that. You know, I don't think I told you this, but I was speaking at a local ARIA OC chapter, and I was talking about the modern consumer journey. And I have this slide that just does, you know, primary market area. You've seen something like this before. I put a circle around it.
Yeah.
And what I pointed out is, I'm like, you know what's great about that area is that there's a lot of homeowners in that area. I said, there's also a lot of expireds in that area. There's for sale by owners. There are people, there are probate sales. There are people going through divorce. There are people going through default. Every type of lead source is in that primary market area. And without fail, if I took any area, now it works here in California, I think it'll work anywhere, but I believe that if anybody who's watching this video goes and does a 5 mile search, 3 to 5 mile search around their house, what they will find, and they found out who's doing the business, the lion's share, they're not going to find any one company or any one agent that's clearly dominating in there.
Right.
You know, it's not saturated. So that means that you don't need to go out. Just focus on your backyard.
Yeah.
I mean, gas is going up. I mean, one of the fringe benefits, you're not going to spend so much in gas.
Yeah, that's your styrofoam cup method, and I think that's just like the way I see real estate. You know, there's either two paths. Like to me, which makes sense. Like you said, your local market, draw the circle. That's that's where your focus should be. There's either that or you're a marketer and you're going everywhere. And I mean, you can be in California, but you can be generating referrals in Oklahoma, right? And getting a rip off of that. So you have, so to me,
You know, and that would be like phase two in my mind.
right.
Yeah, I mean, during the Great Recession, I positioned myself to grow a 26 state foreclosure team, and it was modeled after kind of the relocation model.
Right.
Whereas you find a real estate agent, you team up with them. I could do this because I'm a licensed agent, and it's a referral business, but it's a big referral because you're a team and you're doing a lot of work together. But you're right, you can scale, technology makes it easy, and I guess that doesn't need to be phase two. You need to build the relationships, and the credibility of doing stuff in your own market is what's going to get you those relationships. So I think people just need to really get a little bit more methodical on not just trying to go and just do the things that they think are going to get the results that they want, and they really methodically need to break it down into steps. A system, like what you're doing right now for the VA, you need to break down a system that builds upon each step, as opposed to just, running wild.
Yeah. And those same steps, those same systems, those same processes, they're not they're pretty much basically the same thing. It's just
Same thing.
what are we doing, and in what order. Just the local agent, it's like, hey, I'm just doing the same thing, but I'm just focusing on this area. That's it.
That's it.
Right? What are the upcoming spring activities in Irvine? Like, where's the attractions? There's concerts. There's like, what's going on? Like, I can come up with that list of cool things to do, and send that out.
Well, and you can also sprinkle in market updates.
Right.
As you know, I travel into different markets, but before I travel into different markets, I want to make sure that I can kind of get an idea of what's going on in the market. And I'll tell you, when I search whatever, choose a city, choose a market, and then put real estate market update or market stats or whatever you want to do, nothing comes up. You can't find anything. So one of the easiest things I do about creating content, I don't think this is going to tie into, maybe this is kind of the precursor to AI. Because once everyone starts doing AI, now that's going to kind of, it's just going to be like email. Everyone's going to flood into it, and then all of a sudden everybody's going to get spammed, and then now people are going to start seeing the value again of traditional marketing. I think this is going to happen the same way. But I think
Yeah.
the unique content that you actually create from your brain and from your knowledge is still going to be that is going to become still is the highest level of content that can be created. For instance, I have this chart that you could do weekly, and it's just a market update. How many active homes, how many pending homes, how many new homes to the market. You can go as micro market as you want. You can go by neighborhood, you can do that, but new houses come onto the market every single day and they sell off the market, and those are different updates that you can provide on a
Right.
consistent basis, right? So, no idea how we got on this. I'll know it'll make sense on our methodology, but true to the subject of this, we're just going to figure it out. And it's going to be awesome because already I think that those watching this, and at least for me, I've already written down some notes here.
Yeah, that's the beauty of just riffing, right?
Elon Musk is coming back to California. He's opening up his engineering. Saw that in the news. Did you see that?
I just read that. I was kind of surprised by that move.
It's
I
a
wonder.
game of chess. That's all it is. It's a game of chess.
I'm interested to learn more about the underlying. You know, I'm sure California had some stuff there to reel them back in.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure he got a sweetheart deal on that. So going back into the AI. So I'm trying to get myself into an agent point of view. Look,
Yeah.
the average agent age. Last I checked, I think it was 57. It might be 60 now. I can't remember, but it's in that age range. And what I find in the real estate industry is that technology is the big challenge to adapt. I think the reason why everybody is still focused on the traditional sales activities that we've talked about in the past is because they always work, and
Hmm.
that's what they know. And there's such a learning curve when it comes to look. What do you do? Do you do social media? Do you do pay per click? Do you do organic? Do you do Google? Do you do
Right.
TikTok? Do you send out? What do you do? And I think that people just get paralyzed by standing in the middle and looking around and not knowing where it's like they just got dropped off. They lived in a different country and they got
Right.
dropped off in the middle of New York, and you're trying to figure out your direction. I should say Manhattan. But what do you think? Step one, right? Step one, someone wants to get into technology. Step one, they ultimately want to start utilizing AI. They still think. What do you think? I mean, we
Right.
talked about it a little bit, but what do you think step one is?
Um, well, I mean that's the big problem that I think I'm trying to work on solving right now. And it's not, and this goes to back to a book that I had read a while ago, and it's who, not how.
Who, not how. Tell me about
Who,
that.
not how. So this is where we have this anytime we are looking to grow or do something or accomplish something, rather than looking at that as like, what do I need to do? It's more along the lines of, who do I need to find that can help accomplish what I want?
Ah,
So the who, not how concept is, um, which, because there is so many options, so many things to do, so much to learn, your average person, your average business, there's not enough time in the day to do the daily business and do everything else. There just isn't. And
true.
with the availability of what we have with AI, with remote team members, there's no reason that we need to,
It's true.
um, or we should, quite frankly. Like, a real estate agent, their time is much more better off talking with people and having
Yes.
conversations than it is setting up a blog, right?
True.
Should they have
Should they
Is
have it? Yes,
should they have
absolutely.
that? Yes. But should they spend an
Should
entire
they be the one doing
day
it? Probably not.
doing it? No, not when we have AI that we can literally write an entire blog article in a matter of minutes, and a virtual assistant that we can pay $3 to do that,
I agree, 100%.
right?
In fact, I just wrote down, number one, I just wrote down the book. You know, going back to something you said a few episodes back, your auto broker. So going into your book, Who Not How, and I think that comes into it. Look, we can all sell our own car. We can all buy our own car. What you did was you just went and paid someone, like I think you said a flat fee, and just did
Hmm.
that. Now, I can't find. I looked. I can't find someone like that. I find like these big services, which I think is
Right?
pay $200 and someone's going to do it. It's not. I don't see the value in there. I envision this as somebody who is a professional. It's their full-time job, and
Right.
they're the ones who have the connections, and they're the ones who's finding the deals, right? Like a stockbroker or a real estate agent. That's what I
Yeah.
kind of envisioned. And the stuff that I found online was more like, for a lack of a better example, would be like the iBuyer programs, the discount
Right.
kind of things. So, how the heck do I find one, Luke? I'm in Orange
All right,
County.
so I
It's
got I
LA.
got I got
There should
I
be
got
someone here.
I got two suggestions for you here. Number one, have your wife ask a question in a Facebook moms group.
Okay.
Right? Does anybody know of a auto broker in Orange County? Somebody who can help me buy and sell car, right? Nice and simple. I'm sure there's, plenty of plenty of moms in that area that will probably have a resource. Um, and then alternatively, and this might be better up your alley, is just find and you can ask in a Facebook group or something. Ask somebody who's a car salesperson at any dealership
Good idea.
anywhere, right?
Ask a car
They
guy.
know all the ins and outs. They're doing stuff all day long. Like, and if you could find somebody who's selling cars, they're like an internet person. You can say, hey, you know, I'm not looking to buy like a Mazda, right? You can go find somebody who works at a Mazda, but can you find me, I want you, this is what I'm finding. Can you do that? I'll pay you X amount of dollars, if you find me the right car.
So, the fact that you just shared that with me, I'm calling myself an idiot on the inside. There's a novel idea. Ask a car guy. The most obvious answer. I'm sitting here Googling, trying to figure it out on my own, and
Right.
then I got you. Hey man, why don't you just ask a car guy? And you know what's funny about this? My wife's uncle used to be the GM of Audi in San Diego, and he's now
Hmm.
doing it for Bentley in Florida. So if there's anyone that's going to know about the whole auto broker, especially here in Orange County, why don't I just reach out to him?
Right. There you go.
Referrals. Look at that. There's a lesson to be learned here. Your network. It's not about what you know, it's who you know. And that ties into your book that we just talked about. What'd you say? Who, Not How?
Who, not
That
how.
almost sounds like a Dr. Seuss title. Almost. All right, so we are right there at the 30 minutes mark. So I think this turned out, we didn't have a plan for this. I think maybe Luke and I are onto something here, and just talk about some of the things that's going on, and just turn those and just deep dive. You guys are now getting a good insight to the conversations that he and I always have. So,
Let it rip.
anything you want to share, Luke?
Let it rip. Maybe
Let it
that's
rip.
our maybe that's our new name, right?
My 7-year-old son would have a different version on the definition of let it rip. All right, guys. See you guys next week.